Moses' father? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Exodus on walking through the Bible.
Honors of his word, the glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, you can turn to Exodus chapter 6. We're going to be reading from verses 20 to 30. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Exodus chapter 6, beginning at verse 20. Now Amram took for himself Jochebed, his father's sister, as his wife, and she bore him Aaron and Moses. And the years of the life of Amram were 137. The sons of Izhar were Korah, Nepheg, and Zichri. And the sons of Uzziel were Mishael, Elzaphan, and Zitri. Aaron took to himself Elisheba, daughter of Aminadab, sister of Nahshon, as wife. And she bore him Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. And the sons of Korah were Asir, Elkanah, and Abiasaph. These are the families of the Kohathites. Eleazar, Aaron's son, took himself one of the daughters of Putiel as wife, and she bore him Phinehas. These are the heads of the fathers of the houses of the Levites according to their families. These are the same Aaron and Moses to whom the Lord said, "Bring out the children of Israel from the land of Egypt according to their armies." These are the ones who spoke to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring out the children of Israel from Egypt. These are the same Moses and Aaron. And it came to pass on the day the Lord spoke to Moses in the land of Egypt, that the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "I am the Lord. Speak to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, all that I say to you." But Moses said before the Lord, "Behold, I am of uncircumcised lips, and how shall Pharaoh heed me?" In this section of Exodus 6, we have the genealogies of the first three sons of Jacob, Reuben, Simeon, and Levi, with the real focus being on the sons of Levi, since we're going to be ending up with Moses and Aaron. It comes in the middle of a narrative between God and Moses, with God wanting Moses to confront Pharaoh, and Moses doubting that he would be able to convince Pharaoh to let Israel go. Why then is this genealogy listed here? Well, the passage doesn't explicitly say, but remember Moses' birth and his early life. He was a Hebrew, yet raised in the house of Pharaoh. His true lineage might therefore have been in question, and so, like Matthew did with Jesus, Moses here is giving his family lineage along with Aaron, because he is going to lead the people out of Egypt, and this lineage would therefore quash any doubts of his legitimacy among the people. That is one possible reason to consider, though we should not be dogmatic about it, because the scriptures don't explicitly say. Having given the children of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari, we come to the direct family of Moses in verse 20. Even though we briefly talked about it in Exodus 2, Moses' parents are Amram and Jochebed. Jochebed is Amram's aunt, either his full aunt or half-aunt, depending on the marriage situation, like it was with Abraham and Sarah. The question then arises, is this Amram the same Amram who is mentioned in verse 18 as the son of Kohath, or is it someone different? While simply reading the passage by itself would certainly make it seem so, let's incorporate all of Scripture to arrive at our conclusion. If we look at Numbers 3, 27 and 28, we find that in Kohath's branch of the family, there were 8,600 males aged 1 month or older. Women were not included. Now, from these genealogies here in Exodus 6, we conclude that Kohath had 4 sons, 12 grandsons, and at least 6 great-grandsons. These great-grandsons would be the sons of Moses and Aaron. If there is no gap in these genealogies, since we know the number of children of Moses and Aaron, that would mean that Kohath's other 10 grandsons, who would be contemporary with Moses, would have had to have had an average of 860 male descendants in each line in order to reach that number of 8,600. If, however, 2 additional generations were added, that would bring the number down to an average of 29 males per generation. And if there were 3 additional generations, we would lower that number again to an average of 9 males per generation, a much more sensible number, and a number that is consistent with the rest of the genealogies that we find for the children of Israel. What this shows us is that there are almost certainly people not listed here in the Exodus 6 genealogy between Kohath and Amram that was Moses' father. If the generations that were skipped began with the immediate son of Kohath, then the Amram mentioned as the son of Kohath would be the same Amram as the father of Moses. If, however, the skipped generations occurred after the direct son of Kohath, then there are 2 Amrams, one who was the son of Kohath and one who is the father of Moses. Which one of these conclusions is actually the case, we can't say for sure, but regardless, we can use the scriptures to help explain what is going on. Which brings us to a point when it comes to reading genealogies in scriptures. which is don't use 21st century norms to evaluate how generations are calculated in Scripture. Sometimes people want to add billions of years into the genealogies of Genesis. This is unwarranted because no culture keeps genealogies this way. However, in the Bible, sometimes the word son can mean grandson or great-grandson or simply descendant, as in Jesus being the son of David, but living about 1,000 years after David died. One of the reasons that this is done is when the author is trying to make a certain point. In Matthew, there were a couple of kings skipped in the genealogies of Jesus, so that each section of Matthew's genealogy equaled 14 generations. Well, if you recall from Genesis 15, verse 16, God told Abraham that in the 4th generation, the children of Israel would come out of bondage. 4 generations generally include 4 people. And so even though a generation would be about 100 years at that time, that is likely the reason that only 4 people were mentioned here, the last being the father of Moses and Aaron. Before we wrap up this episode, let's mention some notable names as we pass by, for they will become important later on. We find the name Korah, being the son of Izhar. Korah will lead a rebellion against Moses and Aaron in the book of Numbers. And we also find Aaron marrying Elisheba, which, following who her brother was, would make her of the tribe of Judah, Elishaba's brother being in the lineage of Jesus. Aaron had 4 sons with Elisheba, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, sons we'll get more acquainted with as we travel through these first few books of the Old Testament. Since verses 28 to 30 really should go with chapter 7, we'll leave our discussion for them for the next episode in the series. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's question and answer edition, seeking to answer the question, does someone have to belong to a local church in order to be a Christian? The Lord willing, on Monday, we will return to our study of Exodus, covering Exodus chapter 7, verses 1 to 7, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
I'm not ashamed.
Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.
Of his cross.